Welcome to Fundamental of Version Control with Git. Part 2. Lab 1. First time configuration of Git. At minimum, you should set two options. The first one is your username and the other is your email. Use the git config command with the -- global flag. The global flag means that this setting will be used throughout this Git installation. Then check what are the configured Git options. Git config-L will list all config options. You can see the username and email have been added. Now create your first repo using the command line. Create a directory and cd into it. Then execute git init. Run git status and make sense of the messages. Notice the .git directory at the end. Git saves all metadata, that is the information, of your repo there. Now list the contents of the .git directory. Congratulations! You have created your first Git repo. Create a new file called index.html using an editor of your choice. Use my HTML5 boilerplate code as shown on screen if you do not have any source code to use. Feel free to pause the video when editing your file. Now use the git status command to check the repo status. You can see there is the main branch, and the index.html file is created but untracked. We will explain what a branch is later. Before we move on, here are some important concepts relating to the lifecycle of a file in Git. Untracked file is a file that Git does not have information and will not track its changes. Modified file is a transition stage of a file. No history will be tracked as the user keeps editing the file. The staging area and unmodified file. The git add command places files to Git staging area. Once a file is in the staging area, its status is changed to unmodified. When the user edits any file in the staging area again, that file's status will be changed back to modified. Commit. The git commit command saves a snapshot of the repo. Git will keep every snapshot of a repo and the user can go back to any snapshot if necessary. Editing a file changes its status back to modified. A typical Git workflow includes creating files, adding files to staging areas, editing files and committing files to a version and repeat. Lab 2. Explore git add and git commit commands. Step 1. Run the git status command and make sense of the information. Step 2. Run the git add command to put the file to the staging area and change its status to unmodified. The -f flag tells Git to put all files into the staging area. Step 3. Run git status again. Make sense of the return information. We will use git status very often to check the status of a repo when we are working on it. The index file is ready to be committed. that is, yet to be placed in a snapshot. Step 4. Run git commit-m plus a commit message. It is very important to use a short but meaningful message. We will see why later. Step 5. Run git status again. Make sense of the return information. What is a branch? A branch is an alternative route that allows the developer to work on part of the project but does not affect the original branch. A branch contains all history of the main branch up to the time it was created. Content of a branch will be later merged back into the main branch. Lab 3. Going back to a previously committed snapshot. Step 1. Edit the index file again, then run git status. Notice that the file status changed back to modified. Run git add. Then run git commit. Use git log to get the full history of the commits. The long string is the commit ID, and here is why the commit message is so important. Without it, you will never know which commit you want to go back to. Run git checkout with previous commit ID. Make sure to include the dot at the end. Now check the contents of your index file to see if it has been reverted back. Run git checkout with the latest commit ID and the dot at the end. Check the content of the index file. The file content should now be up to date. Congratulations! You have completed the lesson and can do basic Git operations on your local repo now. In this video you have learned what is version control and Git version control software. Do the initial configuration of a newly installed Git software. Using the command line commands git init, git status, git add, git log and git checkout to do basic Git operations on your local computer. A typical Git workflow includes creating files, adding files to staging areas, editing files and committing files to a version and repeat. In a later video, we will integrate Git with GitHub, a cloud Git hosting service, to take advantage of the cloud service and distributed nature of the Git version control system.